Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Playoff Ready. Today we're discussing what happened to the Nuggets. The head coach and the GM fired like crazy, crazy stuff. Let's get into it. I'm looking forward to seeing Paul Pierce's reaction. So let's go. Let me see how I can get the volume for you guys.
And
Yeah,
this
that's what I'm saying to a week before the playoffs. Like, yeah, that's so crazy. When Shabazz wrote the news, I was like, what? They just cost Westbrook a championship, man. I was so pissed.
somebody's talking about this is the best chance
No, Thing had his best year too. Joker had his best year too. Like I can't even understand this right now. They were fourth seed in the West as well.
to compete
Crazy,
uh,
crazy.
uh,
All right, sorry, listen.
at the highest competition. This is my thing. You got the best player in the league, clearly. Like he may win MVP, he may not. But to me, it just tells me Denver is not serious. Since they won a championship, they failed to re-sign the players that they had to help them win the championship. They've regressed in the role players, and they say, hey, we're just going to plug and play and just hopefully our best player can cover our weaknesses. This is just telling me that the Denver Nuggets, by firing their coach a week before the playoffs, this does not give them their best chance to win the championship. What it's telling me is that you're wasting one of the greatest players of this generation. You're wasting his prime now. Because I look at this like, how do you go into the playoffs with a focus like, hey, guys, we're going to talk about winning the championship, where now, for the next week or two, they're going to be talking about the firing of the coach in the locker room. Instead of us talking about a championship, we're going to be talking about that. How are you going to be focused on winning the playoffs when that's going to be a subject of every conversation from here on out? I just don't get it. This is more going to be a distraction. They could have waited till after the season to do this. If the players had an issue with Mike,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this was like 4 weeks before the playoffs. Yo, you could have waited till the end of the season to do this. Like, yo, this coach, they even won a championship with this coach. This makes no sense. No Kish got three MVPs out of this. Yeah, this team's looking dysfunctional, man. I think they're gonna sell. I think they're gearing up to sell. There's too much money in the NBA. I think the owner is gearing up to
Mike
sell.
Malone, cool. You dealt with it this long. You could have dealt with it a few more weeks. And so I just don't get it. This does not give them the best chance to win a championship.
Maybe the assistant coach will
And I wouldn't
coach.
be shocked if Joker demands trade this summer.
No, we got an opening in LA for a big. No,
Keith,
Rick.
what was your reaction?
Wow. Like, no, why? They got 3 games left in the season, and he won a championship 2 seasons ago. So naturally, when you win a championship, you think, okay, I'm a made man in the city that I brought a championship to.
3 games left in this regular season. Like, what the hell? They cost Westbrook a championship.
I'm gonna be all right for a little bit, but that wasn't the case. He got it completely wrong, and why that is, like Paul said, playoffs is right around the corner. If you would have did this at the beginning of the season, let's say they had a 4-game losing streak and all of a sudden they were 6-10 or something like that, and then they said out, then I'd be like, okay. But these are 2 head coaches now with the Memphis Grizzlies and now Denver that have gotten rid of their head coach while sitting pretty with playoff seedings.
Right.
I don't know what are you looking to accomplish here? Because like Paul said, the locker room, they like, at this point, they like, well, man, we're gonna go out there and try to give it our all, but it's not that easy. You don't see coaches take over teams this late in the year and then all of a sudden go win a championship or make a deep run. Had it been the beginning of the season, you said to me, hey, Key, can they make a run? And I'm like, yeah, why not? Because that's essentially the head coach now. Now you got Adelman, who's been on the staff as an assistant, taking over for these next 3 games and into the playoffs. I don't know if they respect him the same as they may have respected Mike Malone in that situation, Rick.
Yeah. No, it's the timing. We've never seen it before. We've seen something like this in terms of a team being really successful and then ending up winning a championship. When Cleveland fired David Blatt and they moved Tyronn Lue into that spot, that was the end of January. I want to say they were 30-11. I mean, they were rolling, and that caught people by surprise. And the feeling is that the players just weren't buying that They were buying that they were the reason that they were winning, but that they weren't going to win at all with that particular coach.
But David Black didn't win a championship with LeBron James 24 months earlier.
No, also true. Also
You
true.
know?
Look, I'm not defending it. I had been hearing as recently as last summer, after they bowed out against Minnesota, that they were looking at potentially making a change, and that Cal Booth, the GM, who they're not renewing, and Mike Malone weren't getting along, and that Mike. I mean, I had a GM text me this morning, and he said, when you don't get along with people, and you are losing, you put yourself in harm's way. And that's essentially what happened to Mike Malone in
This sounds like what they did to the Warriors coach that time.
this situation. They've lost 4 in a row, and the concern was, you know what, we're still not guaranteed a playoff spot. If we lose the remaining 3, we could wind up in the play-in, and we could end up blowing any chance we have of doing something now. So I look at this as a Hail Mary to say within that organization, they felt they were moving in the absolute wrong direction, that the players were no longer buying what Mike Malone was selling. And they're like, okay, maybe if we move him out, we can still salvage this season or something out of this postseason. And now we'll just see how they respond.
Not buying what he's selling. Joker's having a career year.
He is.
Like, what is going on?
Sure.
I don't get it.
But Jokic has been doing that regardless. So
Yeah,
do you say that he's...
Let's see what first takes says. Yeah, crazy, man. I can't believe they did that. First take. Again, this I'm using go. What first take says. Okay, this one should be good. Yeah, I saw this one with the GM. He was reporting it. Let's see what Chuck says. This one should be fun. Let's see what Chuck says.
Are 2 of them. The news of the week, Chuckster, the Denver Nuggets firing Michael Malone and GM Calvin Booth in the last week of the season. What did you make of that news, and what are you hearing from the folks you talked to?
Well, it was a shock, obviously. It has happened before, but that team was not any good. It happened to the great Hubie Brown, actually, but that team was not in. The Nuggets are in contention. From what I'm hearing, the owner did not want to pick a side because he said, if I keep Mike, people are going to think I chose him over Calvin, or if I keep Calvin, let him go. From what I heard, he just said, hey, you know what, let's just get rid of both of them. And it's really unfortunate because Mike Malone is a really good coach. And let's be fair, Calvin had done a hell of a job. He'd done a hell of a job putting that team together a couple years ago. I thought he should have made some trades to help out Nikola. But, man, it's really unfortunate because Mike Malone did a hell of a job. Same thing with Taylor Jenkins. Coach Jenkins, I think, is a terrific coach. The good thing about it, they both will not be unemployed long. But this late, I didn't remember the Hubie Brown thing happening. I ain't never seen a coach get fired the last week of the season.
When you're heading into the playoffs,
and you're in
David Adelman is going to take over. And I think what it illustrates too is that when you're not around a team day in, day out, when you're not around that organization, you don't see a lot of this stuff coming. If you're there day to day and you know, man, this atmosphere just ain't cutting it, then you can sometimes see why a move like that is made.
Yeah, but with all the drama, listen, they weren't at full strength. Gordon has been out. Jamal Murray has been out. I would have liked to see them give him a little bit more respect. He did bring a championship to the organization.
Exactly,
and listen,
man.
to get those guys back, Kenny knows this.
Yeah, they brought a championship to the team, man. What was that? Oh, we even have to look at the Suns' failure, man. That was
The
crazy.
NBA is a season full of peaks and valleys. So if they peak at the right time, they do have the personnel to possibly win another championship. But
that is shocking right there, those
Yes,
stats,
it is.
though. You got the best player in the world. You should never be 12 and 13 with the players they have.
And Jamal Murray's been out recently as well. But Kenny, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, stats match. They're the number 4 seed.
pretty much in the West.
You won your championships what?
As a 6th seed.
Right.
So my thing is, the NBA, even at college basketball, and this is I think a good measuring stick for we have all the employees here. When you're getting hired for a job, your first question should be, what is success to you? And if he cannot answer that question, you could always be fired. Because if success means I'm going to be one of the top 4 seeds in the league, I'm going to be in contention to winning an NBA championship, and I'm going to have the best player on the team be possibly an MVP candidate. If that's measuring success, then he always wins. But if you're going to say, right now, I don't know what Denver Nuggets measure success by. So how can I tell you if that's what you did was good? But by how I measure it, it's incorrect.
But Kenny
you have to be top 4, and he has done that.
But Kenny and Shaq know this. You know that old saying, what happens in the locker rooms need to stay in the locker room? Ernie, if the regular world knew what all the crap that goes on on any team sport, there's a lot of cliques. There's a lot of animosity. That's why it's so hard to win, because very few teams actually pull.
But that eliminates the animosity. If you're a coach, you go, well, if I'm doing this, it doesn't matter your animosity because I'm actually performing.
Yeah, it's what you hear here, what you say here, what you see
Stay
here.
in the locker room, brother.
Here. Exactly. CarMax
Let's
never
see what the
settled
first thing
before we
guys
hit
are saying. Let's see what Stephen A. says. No, those guys, first take 2.
My outfit is phenomenal, and shots are already fired. But that's okay. At least I'm in the right season. Christopher made him, and you won't be.
But I think they were thinking, not that I'm endorsing it, to be clear. What Josh Kroenke, the governor of the Denver Nuggets, expressed in his comments to the team media, he did not take questions, at least not yet, from the overall media, was that he felt that there needed to be a change, and he had already decided to fire Michael Malone and Calvin Booth at the end of the season, and he thought he should do it now. And he's also said something I think is very important, which is that he said sometimes wins can mask issues. And so my interpretation of that is that he had decided he was going to fire Michael Malone, and if he had left him in the job and they had had some sort of playoff run, that maybe he couldn't have fired him. And I think it's important to point out the history of the Kroenke family. Stan Kroenke is the owner, and Josh Kroenke is the governor. This is a group that owns a number of humongous sports clubs across the world. The Los Angeles Rams, the Colorado Avalanche, the Nuggets, the Arsenal, the soccer club in England. All of
they
those
own
teams,
Arsenal, yeah?
the Kroenkes have shown very little interest in changing the head coaches. I think since he bought the Rams in 2010, I think he's fired the coach once, maybe twice. I think that he's changed coaches twice. With the Arsenal, he's only fired one coach since he bought the team in 2007. I don't think he's changed coaches with the Avalanche in a decade. Michael Malone was the 4th longest tenured head coach. This is not an ownership that fires coaches. That's not what they do. They show extraordinary patience with coaches. So for them to do and actually make a coaching change at one of their prime properties, and I also want to point out, they've won championships with all 4 of those teams in the last decade. This is a stewardship that values coaching and values stability. And to still do that with 3 games left in the season is very unusual, and you could argue downright disrespectful to the winningest coach in franchise history who led you to a championship. They are certainly aware of that, and yet they still did it. So, while I cannot predict the future and I would not try, the fact that I know their history and I
split the baby in half because both are made, you can't tell me that's a solid move. And I'll say one other thing. If anybody thinks, and I'm not putting any blame on them, but if anybody thinks that they didn't go to Joker, just like the Grizzlies with Morant, I'm not saying that
he co-signed on it.
Well, he didn't fight to keep Malone because you can't pay a guy the money that they're paying and not at least tell him prior. By the way, we're going to fire Malone. You okay with that? And if Joker wasn't okay with that, if he wanted to.
But then we started discussing it. You get still. You give yourself a minute. I have been a part of at least 2 press conferences this season, and I've heard it more than once, not in press conferences that I haven't been present in, it almost became thematic this year when the Nuggets had these head-scratching sort of losses. You would hear Michael Malone say, we've got to raise our compete level. He's made comments about this team's effort. Now, granted, I'm not saying teams don't have off nights, but I think that has reared its head enough this season for a team that has an MVP caliber.
That's crazy. Let's hear what these guys say, and then we wrap it up there.
Live from New York.
What?
About Michael Malone?
No, I'm saying.
I do think that comeuppance sometimes happens, and I do think
Is way back.
your reaction to this news.
Well, obvious shock. I mean, I think even people that wanted him out, like, I'll leave that nameless, but everybody was shocked, right?
Shocked.
So I made a few calls, and here's what I'm told. This has been brewing for a while. Like, the environment in Denver, I'm told, is toxic or has
Really?
toxic.
Wow.
Because the
Toxic.
GM, Calvin Booth, who also was fired, as you said, and Michael Malone don't get along. And I've been told weren't even talking to each other, okay? Michael Malone is an old school, hard-nosed coach. And that has rubbed a lot of the players the wrong way.
Really,
And I'm even told if they hadn't won that championship in 2023, he might have been gone at that time. All right, but obviously they won it. So some players, you know, he's just rubbed them the wrong way because he's such a hard-nosed coach. Not quite as hard on Jokic and Murray, but still coaches them hard, but not quite as hard on them, which also has rubbed some guys the wrong way, that he's not as hard on them. Now, I am told
Christian
this.
Brown?
I'm told that Jokic liked Michael Malone. Like, he liked him. Now, of course, he saw sometimes he's a little too hard and bristle a little bit at it, but he liked Michael Malone. And so that is the situation that I'm told. I'm told the owner, Josh Kroenke, really didn't want to pick sides between Malone and Booth. It's all toxic, so you're all gone. And that's my reaction. Obviously, crazy time to do it. We'll get into what this means for the team and stuff. But that's some of the inside information I'm told.
So here's the thing about having a thin team where you don't play that many guys, and then us being like, well, you know, rub some guys the wrong way. So here's what I find. Here's one of the differences between Gerard Mayo, and this was a mistake, whatever, I'm not picking on Patriots, but being like, we're soft, and a basketball coach doing that. Football teams got 53 guys. Be like, populating that. Put Jokic in MVP front-runner spot, stabilize everything, remove the kid and...
Yeah,
I don't think he has enough time to do much different schematic.
No.
Right? It might give a boost to the, you know, just there's a better feeling. It's not as toxic as it was before, so that can help. I think Denver still could spoil somebody's postseason. I don't think they can win the West just because it just seems implausible that they got rid of their coach with 6 games left and they're going to make that type of run.
3 games
I do think 3 games left. And I do think, though, they could spoil some, like a top contenders run to the finals. So they're still dangerous. I just don't see them winning 3 Western Conference series with the situation.
Yeah, guys. That's it from my side. Let's call it a day. I'll update this video. Looking forward to your comments, and please subscribe.